today, I want to make sure that we kind of group the things together that we covered in benefits. We covered a lot of things, but the key things, unless you're an implementer, the key things you need to know about are going to be the plans. So, for example, we talk about the medical plan, dental plan, vision plan, and whenever we create those plans, when we're creating them, we have to associate them with the coverage type. And then we spent a lot of time on the eligibility rules for these plans. And then we talked about the plan cost, or in other words, plan rates. And we talked about updating the rates from UI, but I also got an example of uploading the rates via EIB. So let me pull that up. You guys could see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here, in one of my client sites, I created an EIB. I just give it my initials, and then I put benefit health plan rates. And during the setup, under the get data step, the web service that we need is called put healthcare rate web service. And the rest is pretty straightforward. The key that, when we're creating different types of EIBs, the thing we need to know is which web service to call or to select. So for rates, is put healthcare rate web service. And have an example of something I used last time, because the EIB has a lot of columns, as you know, and they're hard to figure out what they mean. But since we, healthcare rates change all the time, then it would be helpful we actually go through the EIB. So from that EIB, you could generate a template, and it's also always recommended that you generate a new template because as new versions of Workday, there might be some changes on the back end that we may not be aware of. So instead of trying to use the same template that I used last time, next time I have to upload the rates, I would create a new template, download that, and then populate it. And you could always use the previous one as in order to see which columns to populate, because the names are very tricky and it's kind of hard to figure out what goes where. So I will go ahead and upload this to the LMS. But basically, you need to put in the effective date in column D. And if it's going to be an existing or a new one, if it's an existing plan versus not an existing plan, if you don't populate the healthcare rate ID, then it will create a new rate plan, and then it will associate that. If I have put in the ID here in column E, then it will update the existing plan. But all of these were new, so I did not populate column E. And let me scroll to the right. Okay. So frequency is very important. If it's monthly, make sure the rates that HR gives to you is that the rates are also given to you are in monthly frequency. And these are the coverage targets, but this is the ID, the internal ID of the target. So you know how you go on the related actions and then view ID? That's how you get this particular ID. So even though in some cases it looks like the normal description of the coverage target is really the ID. Okay, that's going to the right. So here's the healthcare flat rate data. So for my plans they were a flat rate based on these coverage targets. So once again, in column AD, you have to put in the row ID for all of them. So it groups only by that particular plan. So there's 8 different targets, and then the next plan, and then the next plan. The coverage targets are, children, domestic partner. This is going to be different for each client, right? Everybody's going to have their own coverage targets. So you may not see the exact same coverage names. Everybody will have a different name. And then column AL is the employee cost pre-tax, and column AM is the post-tax. So we were only interested in loading the pre-tax because there was no post-tax employee cost. So that's why only column AL is populated. And for the employee cost is AO. The employer cost is column AS. This is the employer tax. Employer cost. I just put this in color so it's easy to see the columns that I updated. But normally this will be, this is just an XML text. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and upload this to the LMS. Okay, so that's how, when you have a lot of rates to update, use the EIB. And then the common task we have to do is every year we have to update the plans. And so we talked about the plans last time, edit or add. We also talked about the cross-plan dependencies. And I want to make sure I go through one more cross-plan dependencies. So I took a screenshot. Okay, so let me know if you could see this. So actually, I talked about this last time, but this is something that changes a lot. So we need to be very familiar with this. In this example, there is what's called a cross-plan enrollment prerequisite. That means you have to enforce the rule that an employee must be in one particular plan before they could enroll in a second plan. The setup is very simple. You select the first plan, and then you enter the benefit group for which this rule applies to, and then you select the first plan, and then the potential secondary plans. And then you select the rule which says you must select the primary benefit plan, and then you could select any of the, you could select one or more of the benefit plans. So as more and more companies are offering HSA, which is health savings account, a lot of companies don't, but there are more and more companies are offering it. But the prerequisite of that is that employee must be enrolled in the high deductible plan, and only then they could sign up for the HSA. So if that's the scenario, then you need a cross-plan dependency like this. I will upload this to the LMS as well. There's also like insurance plan maximum that's also entered. They're also entered in as part of a cross plan dependency. So if I click on edit cross plan insurance maximum, and I'll go there, go into our GMS tenant, and we go here. So in case the life insurance amount needs to change, and it typically does change every year. You go into the edit cross plan insurance coverage maximum, and you select the plans where this applies to, or select the benefit groups, and then the cross plan maximum. So check that out for a second. I'm going to put you guys on mute for a minute. Okay, I want to make sure you guys are aware where the insurance plan maximums are entered, and because they usually do change. And I want to make sure that you guys practice in the tenant creating a plan year definition, because at least for the US, it makes sense to do a new plan year definition every year for open enrollment purposes. And in other countries, it may not be so, but at least I'm familiar that in the US, it works best if we create a separate plan year definition for each year. And we talk about the maintain enrollment event types. These are the things that trigger benefit changes, right? For example, if someone has a child or they adopt a child, most of this is going to be set up at implementation time, but there might be some, some event might come up that has not been set up before. So in that case, you might have to create one. And I want to show you guys the one that I created. So maintain enrollment event types is a collection of all the events that trigger benefits. And if we were to create a new one, not related to open enrollment, but a new one right now, you go to create, and then we could just populate this. This could be, for example, this could be a carpool benefit. And where it says enrollment offering type, these are all the different types. And if I were to select healthcare coverage type of medical or health, that means when this event gets triggered, it will open up the plan that's associated with this enrollment type. So if Kaiser was, for example, Kaiser is associated with the medical plan, and if I have selected medical here, then when this event is triggered, the person could enroll in a Kaiser plan. This seems to be more of like a third-party benefit, so it's not going to be health or benefit. It might be, you might have to create like an additional benefit coverage type, like commuter spending or fringe benefit. And then if it's something that the worker could select, you have to select worker selectable so the worker could initiate that. And then if it needs to route to the benefits partner, you would select this. And then if there's any restrictions by country, you could select those as well. And then if there's any restrictions by how many days the person needs to enroll by, so from initiate date or from event date, you could put those in here. So for example, for child, you have 30 days. In this case, I'm just going to put 14 days. And coordination of events means that if there's any additional event after this one, that might affect this one, how do you want to process that? So if there's, for example, if it's open enrollment time, and during that time frame, someone gets married. So now they'll have a marriage event, and once they complete that marriage event, then open enrollment will trigger for them. In this case, it doesn't really apply to us because this is a carpool fringe benefit. And we just click OK. Okay, so there's our carpool benefit. We also have one that already exists. It's called Add Child/Adoption Event. Make sure you create an enrollment event. Give it a name that starts with your initials, and then just copy it exactly like the child adoption event that we saw last time. I want to make sure that you know how to create it. And then once you actually create that, do actually initiate a benefit change using the event that you created. So what I mean is, any event that we create, like I did here, now as an employee, well, Logan is employee as well as an HR partner. But once we create that event, you go to Actions and Benefits and Change Benefits. So the event that you created, it should show up over here. Here's our carpool one, and then here's the one that I created, which basically it was just a copy of the birth adoption of child. So I just wanted to make my own. And it will work exactly the same way. You just look at this one and then create your own. And then, right when we're creating that benefit type, right below that where was the enrollment types. So since dental, dependent care, healthcare, medical, and vision were selected, so these plans will not be available after submitting this to the employee to enroll in. So you should be at least able to launch that event, and then in our GMS tenant, you should be able to proxy as the benefits partner, and then kick it off, and then as the employee to actually make those benefit changes. Next, I want to cover the enrollment event rule and talk about where the insurance coverage is kept, and then also the concept of evidence of insurability. I do need a 3-minute break right here, though. So just give me 3 minutes. I'm going to put it on pause and mute. Sorry about that, but as you know, myself and family's been sick for almost a week and a half now. So instead of canceling the class, I was like, okay, let me just do the best I can so we get the class going, even if we only do an hour today. Okay, so I'm gonna review the enrollment event rule. Is basically the core of all the rules. We did go through it. but we didn't go through the changing the levels of the insurance. So here, as we know, there's like 6 different tabs. For starting, like when there's some kind of event that allows us to sign up for benefits, like a higher event or some type of job change, and then there's loss of coverage, or if someone is currently covered and making any changes. But there's also, especially for life insurance amounts, there's the level of change currently covered, level of change currently waiving. That means if someone is currently waiving but now they're eligible, what rules apply to them? And then if someone is newly eligible and now they're going to sign up for life insurance, maybe there's some type of life event that happened that made them eligible. So let's go to the newly eligible tab. Typically, we usually just come in here in order to change the amounts. So it's good to go through this grid for the purpose of life insurance. Okay. So it says here under the enrollment event type, if there's an employment status change or a new hire event, it says under these 2 conditions, the coverage types that are listed here will be affected. So we're saying if someone is a new hire and they could have spouse life, or they could sign up for voluntary supplement life, and they could also sign up for the, I believe this is AD&D, is disability and dismemberment, is some type of disability life insurance. So for these 3 types, the life insurance amount, the rule that this company and this GMS tenant we're using is based on the guaranteed issue amount. So rather than having a maximum amount populated or maximum level, the guaranteed issue amount column is populated, and it says that as a starting point, when someone is first eligible, they're eligible for $10,000, and they could sign up to $50,000 for the voluntary AD&D. And the rule that's being used is the guaranteed amount rule. So this determines that the value that's in this column is what we're using. And under this column, which says default coverage if pending EOI, EOI stands for evidence of insurability. So until the insurance company is able to reach out to the employee offline, and the employee has to submit a proof of like an examination or a medical exam. Until that happens, the default coverage, while EOI is pending, we have chosen guaranteed issue amount. So that means until the evidence of insurability is complete, the person is only going to be able to get 10,000 coverage of spouse, 10,000 of voluntary supplemental life, and 50,000 of the voluntary. And during open enrollment or during new hire, the person may have signed up for 50,000, but they're not going to get the 50,000 until their EOI is complete. And EOI is something that the insurance company will they'll send a letter to the employee like offline through their third-party process. So usually every year we have to come over here and we have to change the amounts. So like say, for example, previous year was 10,000. This year it might be 20,000. One thing that I noticed over here is that under this category of newly eligible, I only see the event types of employment status change or new hire, but I don't see anything that will allow the benefit admin to make a correction on behalf of the employee. Like there's usually some type of administrative correction, or what's called like from the back end, the benefit partner could sign up for the employee or on the employee's behalf. So I will go ahead and set that up. So we're gonna select another enrollment event type that would allow the benefit partner at the time of new hire to act on behalf of the employee for life insurance purpose. So I'm gonna click on the plus button. I'm gonna choose, there might be something already exists, something called like admin correction or admin administrative task. Okay, so there's administrative task. And that's gonna be for the coverage type of spouse life and voluntary AD&D. So I'm gonna go ahead and select those. If all three of these are going to have the same guaranteed amount, then you could put them all in one group. But typically that's not the case, so they might have different amounts. So let's move them in separate rows. So voluntary, let me remove it from there and put it here by itself. So if the benefits partner is entering the benefits on behalf of the employee, perhaps they could do 100K, or just keep it at 60K. Okay, so here's the event that we added here, administrative correction, and then the amounts we entered, and the default processing rule, which says the employee will get the guaranteed issue amount while the EOI is pending. So they will get this amount. Okay, so we covered that. Another thing as Workday support, we need to update the quick links on the benefits workload, which is a pretty simple task, and I went over that last time. But basically, this notes tab is the things that we commonly have to do, right? So you want to make sure that you're able to do these tasks in our GMS tenant. So a couple more things to add to that is instructional text. Now that we got everything else done, we got the plans, their eligibility rules. We want to make sure that we add some instruction text. And if we have the right instruction text and we explain to the employee like what step they're in and what's going to happen next or what kind of prerequisite they have, that kind of information is provided under instruction text. And there's two places where instruction text is provided. One is right within the business process, and there is a help text, and then there's also maintain enrollment instructions, which has instruction text that you could update. So let me show you the one that's under the BP change benefits. Okay, so there's a lot of change benefit business processes, but the two most likely the ones that we're going to interact with is change benefits, which is the default definition. And then because this is the GMS tenant, it may be using the change benefit for global modern services, which I'm abbreviating as GMS. So, and then there's change benefit for life event for GMS. And then there's going to be the open enrollment business process as well. So let me check this one. So we go to the BP, and if we open it up, if we look under actions and business process, and then maintain help text, this is the help text we see when we initiate on the initiation page of the business process. And it's effective dated. So let me see what is currently there. Okay. So here's the page where that help text is maintained. And for step A, the change benefits initiation, here's the instructional text. And go ahead and review that for a second. And then if step B also has some text, it would be there, but it doesn't look like it. It's usually just in the first step. And we could edit that. We could also put conditions around it, like say you want to limit this just for the US employees, and you want to have different text for, say, employees in other countries. You could put conditions on it. But for now, we're just going to we're going to say, instead of saying instructional text, I'm going to say, please note. And if I selected the correct business process, we should be able to see this new text at the initiate benefit stage. So I'm going to go to change benefit screen again. Okay. So under change benefits, when the process is kicked off, this is the instruction text that we looked at, and we briefly modified it. So that's where it would get modified. Okay, so this is the text, I guess, at the initiation of the business process. And there's also the text that shows up as the employee goes through, like on the sign up form, when they're like signing up for the medical plan or they're signing up for the health savings, the instruction that goes over there. So that's under maintain enrollment instructions. So there is the general enrollment section, which has instruction for all of the plans. And then there is a tobacco use section for those companies that do track tobacco use. They might have you put in some default text for tobacco use. So first, let's look at the general enrollment section. Under healthcare elections, we see a lot of text over here, and it has a condition for the benefit group. So this text could be restricted by benefit group, and it also could be restricted by certain type of events. And then this text over here will be shown to everybody. So every year there's always some kind of changes to the text. Maybe there might be a link that changes or some other things, but this is where you come to change the text. And so there's different text based on the different type of event that occurs. And then there's the benefit elections review. So this is the information text that shows up on the review page. And it usually just has something like indicate your agreement with the elections via the electronic signature checkbox at the bottom of the page. And then on the confirmation page. So all of that instruction is under maintain enrollment instructions. Okay, so that part is pretty easy, pretty fun. Let me go back to the benefits business process. Okay, so it's under actions, and then under business process, and then maintain help text. And then it's effective dated. Okay, so this is also a good segue into the benefit business processes. So obviously the most common one is the change benefits one. This is the default definition. Each company they may be using the default one, or they may modify it. So this is fully configurable based on the workflow. So here are the initiating groups. So it could be initiated by the employee or the benefits partner or administrator. Sometimes if the benefits administrator may initiate it, it will go to the benefits partner, and then the benefits partner will kick it off to the employee to do the actual enrollment of the benefits. And then once the employee completes that and submits it, then it will go to the benefits partner for final approval. So basically, that's why it's got these steps in it. We're not going to go really deep in there, but if you wanted to put some kind of condition on it, obviously, like you only want it to go to the benefits partner if there was some kind of condition that you needed to put on there. So next to the magnifying glass, you click on the related actions, then go to business process and maintain step conditions. There might be some rule about reprocessing. Like if something needs to be reprocessed or something should not be reprocessed, then that case, we need to send it to benefits partner. Okay, event is being reprocessed. Event is not being reprocessed. Okay. Here on step C, we see that it's got a condition says that route live event to worker. So in this condition, we're checking that this is something that should be routed to the worker, and the worker has a Workday account. If the person has not started yet, well, I guess if they haven't started, but they might still already have an account. But as long as they have an active account, it will go to them. But if they're, like, for example, terminated, then it won't go to them. It'll go to the benefits partner, and the benefits partner may remove their benefits, unless it's done automatically as part of the termination process. So that is the most, like the default business process for benefits change. It's called change benefits. And then there's a bunch of sub processes. So it's benefit life event. So there's the change benefit for life event. There's also a couple of reports that we should be familiar with. The most common one is benefit status, and this is a Workday delivered one. So I'll click this benefit events status report. So for a particular group, you want to find out everything that's in progress or has not been started. So it will have the event, and then you could click on that event to see the details. So very useful. Probably a good thing to run it before you initiate open enrollment. Make sure there's nothing in progress. Like, we make sure there's no open benefit events before you trigger open enrollment. So that's one good report. Another one is benefit corrections. Okay, there's no benefit corrections. There's another one. Oh, there's a couple of other ones. I'll go through them. If there's any data in it, we'll see it, but they're good to know. Enrollment count, the number of people enrolled in certain plans. So this report is good when you need to audit the data that you have in your system, and you have sent this data to a benefits vendor or provider, and you want to make sure that the number of people you have enrolled matches the number of people enrolled in that third-party system. So you could get the data from the enrollment count report. So definitely very useful. And there's different tabs for the different types of plans there are. There's a couple more benefit census, or just two benefit changes. There's one audit report for terminated employees who still may be on benefits. Terminated employees with benefits. So if this report returned any data, you probably work with a benefits partner to understand why this is so. This may not be something that that should be. Like here, we have an employee who's on a medical plan. And usually to the benefit vendors, you need to send a benefit census file. So in that case, you're more, you probably have to create your own custom report and then convert it into an outbound EIB and send it that way. But just for reference, you should run the benefit census report to make sure that you're getting the same data. So the census report has the employee name and all of the benefit types and providers and the level of coverage they're signed up with and who their beneficiaries or dependents are. So these are like 5 really useful reports that are good to be aware of. If there's from all the sessions we had, we need to make sure that we are easily, able to go in there and change plan rates. We know how to update the benefit groups. And when we update the benefit groups, that means the plans that are within that group. And here's all the tasks that need to occur. And then at the end, we talk about the instructions and help text. Tomorrow's session, I will add, I'll try to cover creating an open enrollment event, and then we'll go through an employee actually going through an open enrollment, and then closing the open enrollment, which is happens once a year, but as a critical part of the benefits module. And then I think that will cover it, and then after that, we'll start recruiting. So I think we're done for any new material today.